Under the bright lights and roaring cameras, two men sat across from each other, their eyes locked in a silent war. Jake Paul and Gervonta Tank Davis, two names from completely different worlds, now shared the same stage, the same oxygen, and soon the same ring. One was a YouTuber turned media mogul, a self-made disruptor who weaponized attention into fortune. The other, a generational boxer forged from grit, precision, and unrelenting hunger. When they faced off in front of Piers Morgan, the tension felt like a live wire, crackling, unpredictable, dangerous. Jake leaned forward with that trademark smirk, promising to end the fight by the 9th round. Tank barely moved. His response wasn't theatrical or rehearsed. It was quiet venom. He dismissed Jake's prediction with the kind of cold confidence only a real fighter possesses. To him, Jake was easy work, a warm-up for men who live and die by the code of combat. But beneath the bravado, both men understood what this fight truly represented. For Jake Paul, this wasn't just another show. This was the mountain, the moment that could cement his legitimacy in a world that still laughed at him. For Gervonta Davis, this was a test of principle, a reminder that even as the sport evolved into a spectacle of fame, there were still fighters who fought for something deeper than headlines. As Jake talked about his rise and Tank calmly promised destruction, you could feel the clash between old-school boxing and new-age entertainment. One chasing glory through legacy, the other chasing immortality through influence. When asked about strategy, Tank didn't bother dressing it up with false modesty. He knew his power. He knew his focus. His words were few but final. He said that once he got Jake where he wanted him, it was over. Not maybe. Not possibly. Just inevitable. The prediction wasn't arrogance. It was certainty built on years of real fights, real blood, and real pressure. For him, it wasn't personal. It was business. And business, as always, would be finished in the ring. Outside of their direct confrontation, the boxing world erupted with opinions. Fighters, analysts, and fans couldn't stop debating what this fight meant. Emiliano Vargas pointed out the shift Jake Paul had engineered in modern boxing. Gone were the days when a fighter needed an Olympic pedigree or a lineage of titles to become a star. Jake built his empire before he ever threw a professional punch. He didn't climb the traditional ladder. He built a new one out of social media, viral moments, and controversy. He cracked the code, attention equals money. And whether fans loved him or hated him, they tuned in. Vargas admired the hustle but feared for the future. If the sport became more about spectacle than skill, where did that leave the warriors who had trained since childhood for a chance at glory? Even industry veterans like Gareth A. Davies admitted this fight blurred the line between sport and circus. He called it the biggest freak show yet, but he didn't mean it entirely as an insult. He understood that this is what sells now. Jake Paul knows how to turn outrage into currency. He creates stories people can't ignore. And whether you see him as a disruptor or a fraud, he's impossible to look away from. Yet Gareth also acknowledged that Davis is no ordinary opponent. He's a top-tier fighter, one of the most dangerous pound-for-pound athletes alive. For some, that's what makes this fight fascinating. For others, it's what makes it unthinkable. Coach Reg, one of Tank's longtime supporters, defended his fighter with unwavering loyalty. He reminded everyone that Davis earned his place through years of struggle, sacrifice, and scars. He's not a creation of marketing, he's a product of mastery. To Reg, Tank doesn't owe anyone anything. If he wants to secure his financial future with big money fights, he's earned that right. Boxing is brutal, and one bad night can end a career. Legacy doesn't feed families, money does. But even so, Reg made one thing clear. Tank still represents real boxing. Discipline, courage, authenticity. He fights to win, and he fights to remind the world what true skill looks like in an era of manufactured fame. Meanwhile, commentators analyzed the contrast in personalities. Jake was the showman, sharp-tongued and fearless behind a microphone. Tank was silent, reserved, focused. Some said his calm made him seem disinterested, but those who know boxing saw something different. That silence wasn't weakness, it was focus. Fighters like Gervonta don't waste energy on words. They study, they wait, they strike. His stillness wasn't boredom. It was the quiet before the storm. Jake tried to drag him into verbal warfare, but Tank refused to play along. In that restraint was power, the kind Jake wouldn't understand until the bell rang. Still, critics questioned whether Tank's fire was fading. They said his passion had dimmed, that the fame and money had softened him. But those who've been around him, Those who've seen his training camps know better. Tank's preparation is a ritual. His discipline hasn't dulled, it's evolved. He knows what's at stake. He knows one misstep could unravel everything he's built. Every jab, every round, every moment in that ring adds to his legacy or takes away from it. He's aware of that pressure and he embraces it. The broader conversation surrounding the fight went beyond the athletes. Boxing veterans like Sean Porter questioned what this moment said about the sport itself. Once upon a time, fighters chased belts and undisputed glory. Now they chase numbers, views, clicks, pay-per-view buys. Porter respected both men, but worried that boxing was becoming more entertainment than competition. He wondered what future generations would learn from this era. Would they train for greatness or chase fame? He wasn't angry, just uncertain about what the sport he loves was turning into. Nate Diaz, ever blunt and unapologetic, cut straight to the point. For him, this wasn't boxing's rebirth, it was business, plain and simple. Both fighters knew what they were doing. They weren't lying to the audience. They were selling entertainment, and in that honesty, Diaz found no shame. He acknowledged Jake's improvement, but didn't pretend this was a purist's fight. It was spectacle, and as long as fans watched, the show would go on. As the fight date nears, the noise only grows louder. Supporters call it revolutionary. Critics call it ridiculous. But the truth sits somewhere in between. This matchup captures everything boxing has become, a collision of legacy and modernity, respect and rebellion, art and commerce. Jake Paul is betting on his ability to rewrite the rules of the sport. Gervonta Davis is betting on his power to remind everyone why those rules existed in the first place. When the lights dim and the crowd holds its breath, none of the interviews, predictions, or opinions will matter. All that will remain is the ring, two men, and the truth. Maybe Jake Paul shocks the world and validates years of mockery. Maybe Gervonta Davis delivers a statement so devastating that the new age of boxing is humbled back into silence. Either way, this fight is no longer just about punches, it's about perception. It's about what boxing means in the modern era. So what do you think? Is this fight the beginning of a new chapter for boxing or the end of an old one? Can Jake Paul truly stand toe-to-toe with a world-class fighter like Gervonta Davis? Or will Tank remind everyone that real power can't be manufactured? Share your thoughts below, and if you want more deep dives into the stories shaking the fight world, hit that like button, subscribe, and stay tuned, because this war between spectacle and skill is just getting started.